Perfect. Okay. So, hi, Max, and hi, Paul. Do you want to introduce yourselves?
Yeah, great. Thanks a lot, David. Thanks for having us. So I'm Max Paterson. I'm the one of the co-founders of Settify and
Mhm.
now the executive chair, having just recently brought on to the team one of the big guns of the legal technology world. And Paul, I'll let you introduce yourself.
Thanks, Matt, and thank you very much, David. My name's Paul Psaltis, newly appointed global CEO here at Settify. So quite an extensive background in legal technology, 5 very successful years at Smokeball. Prior to that, around the same 5 very successful years at InfoTrack. And the legal tech career really started at Leap Legal Software back in the mid-2000s, which seems like forever ago now.
Yeah. I mean, it's actually really interesting. I mean, basically, I've actually heard bits about Settify around the marketplace. Obviously, you guys are doing really well. Tell us a bit more about Settify. Like, what do you tell us how you started off? Tell us the story of how you started off, where you're at now, and a bit about proposition.
Yeah, great. So I was a family lawyer. I practiced in Melbourne for about 4.5 years. And I loved family law practice. I loved dealing with clients. I loved the assistance that you can give people at the hardest time of their life. But I always thought, can we be doing things better? Can we be improving this process, making life easier for these people? And I would sit in initial meetings with people and find myself at my hourly rate, which was about $400 an hour, and often a senior person more expensive than me. And we would go through, for the first half an hour, 45 minutes, how do you spell your middle name? What are the kids' dates of birth? How much is the house worth? What's owing on the mortgage? Do you have a super account? And I just thought, look, in this day and age, and this was 2016, 2017 at the time, people were going online. The internet was really sort of taking off, and people were just getting a much greater degree of familiarity with it. And I thought, this straightforward stuff can be really well handled using technology. Not in terms of a basic sort of web form, but something that's interactive, something that actually guides people through, that gives them a responsive answer, that sort of handholds them, but does it in a digital format. A little bit like, when you're booking an airline ticket, or you're choosing an Airbnb, or, whatever else that you're doing. How can we use that kind of technology and that kind of approach to welcome clients, to make them feel heard, to make them feel like they've come to the right place, and a law firm is able to assist them, and then to grab all of their background details, all of those sort of nuts and bolts, and provide that to their lawyer ahead of time, so that I, as a lawyer, instead of coming in pretty blind, having had like a very brief chat with a client, I can come in knowing, all right, these are the kids' details. This is where everyone's working. These are the plans. This is where everyone's living, assets and liabilities, etc. And then I, as the lawyer, can really impress the client in that first meeting, because that first meeting is where the relationship between the client and the lawyer is really established. And even back then, but particularly in this day and age, after that initial meeting, it's mostly just phone calls, emails, etc. So if you can develop the personal relationship by talking about what's important to you, what are you worried about, what are your concerns, that I thought would be the really important thing to be able to get lawyers to focus on, and let technology deal with the dates and places and times and all of that. So I went off and partnered up with my co-founder, Athol Bertley, who's a tech whiz. We started Settify, launched it in 2017. And since then, it's expanded to every state and territory of Australia. It's gone to New Zealand, England, Scotland. We're now in 3 of the Canadian territories, and we're just launching into Texas at the moment. So it's been a really amazing journey, seeing something go from an initial concept and an inkling that, there's a space for this, to something that's really proven now. There are now over 400 firms that have signed up for it and that are using it. And the feedback that we get from them is essentially that it works, that clients really appreciate that additional assistance. So in terms of the the nuts and bolts. Basically, we partner with law firms. We add a button onto the website, find out where you stand, get started now. Clients go through that. It's a beautiful interactive process. And then the lawyer's briefed, they go into the meeting, they impress the client.
It's quite interesting, because what you're actually doing is you're making family law 24 hours, 7 days a week. I mean, you're basically, because it's not straight line. I mean, it's very much, it's not a case of, you know what, at 6 o'clock or 5 o'clock on the dot, I've got my information, my questions banked up till then. You've got the access to the law firm by providing the extra information. Sometimes because people are working and all the sort of that life gets in the way, they're going to do things after hours and weekends and things like that. And they feel like the law firm's still open, listening to them and actually like looking at what they're doing.
That's absolutely right. We find that it's a really large chunk of clients come through Settify, both for family law and for wills, outside of office hours. I mean, people are working, right?
Yeah.
And if you've got a job and you're doing your 9 to 5 or longer than that, it's kind of an imposition to step out of that mind frame of your work life and then think, okay, I'm going to, resolve or start work on resolving this family law issue or doing my will. I don't know about you, but I leave my life admin till outside of work, and that's when I want to get things done. And we absolutely see that with Settify. So it means that, law firms can make their services available outside of office hours without, burning their staff.
Yeah, no, it's interesting. And also interesting as well about the value that lawyers provide from the point of view of actually, it's almost like this sort of part, they're lawyer, part counselor, part psychologist, part, there's a whole bunch of roles they actually fulfill, part confidant. There's a whole bunch of roles they actually fulfill, which people really, really value, probably more than filling out the paperwork and collecting information. It's sort of quite sort of, mundane and straightforward.
David, I think you've hit the nail on the head. What we stand for is a future where lawyers or lawyering is an intensely human activity, right? I think that there's been a history in law where we think that we can spend our time doing essentially admin and charging clients hundreds of dollars, per hour for that. And I think when you look at the role and the duties and the tasks of a lawyer, and you think about where is it that we're really providing our special sauce as lawyers, our real expertise, where are we adding value? And I think that it's in the relationship. I think it's in the trust. I think it's in the applying expertise. I think it's in the applying judgment. I think it's in the explaining things in ways that people will understand. I don't think that it's in the data collection. I don't think that it's in the form filling. And so we absolutely stand for a future where essentially great technology gives excellent client service for the straightforward. And then lawyers come in using that technology and keep the law human.
It's actually interesting because the areas that you actually cover, I mean, very much focused on the sort of consumer, I'm sorry for bad words, but the people consumer side of things. And obviously one of the things it might do is it might propagate other matters and create other matters within the law firm. So a person that's doing their will or getting divorced or whatever else, it may actually generate other referrals for other sort of areas within the firm itself. I mean, are you finding that?
Yeah, absolutely. And we started at life in family law. We've spread into wills. So Settify absolutely captures data for wills as well. We've got a separate product, Settify for wills. We've also last year expanded into probate, and we are developing an estate dispute system as well to bring in those disputed estate matters. And yeah, absolutely. What we find, particularly in family law, is that anyone who's going through a family law situation, pretty much by definition, needs to review, update, amend their will. So we actually created a bridge from the family law system into a will system. So it's a little bit like a burger and fries situation.
Nice.
To be honest, if you've got a family law situation, we can grab all the data. We can find out everything that the firm needs to know on the family law front. But then we can say, look, you've gone 9/10 of the way to giving us everything that we need to get your will done. How about you answer a few more questions and then we can update your estate. So yeah, there's that estate matter as well.
That's interesting. I mean, as a fellow sort of co-founder of a tech company expanding overseas, that's a tough gig. How'd you do it?
So the interesting thing about Settify is that we often find people kind of fall in love with it. So we've expanded primarily where people have actually approached us and said, "Hey, we've seen what you're doing. That would be really cool if you could, if you could do it over here." So we were actually approached by a part-time judge, part-time partner of a law firm over in England, in London, who said, "Love what you're doing. It's the only thing in the world that I've seen do onboarding as well as you are. How do you feel about coming over and doing a partnership with us?" So that was David Hodson, OBE, and so I went over. We worked with him and the International Family Law Group, which is one of the leading English family law firms, and we adapted the system for England. Then a very similar story. Rachel Kelsey in Scotland said, "Hey, come bring it up to Scotland." Similarly in Canada, Ros Sao from a fantastic firm in Toronto, and same story in Texas. So what we usually do is basically we send a single person over, we translate the system. So the system does need to obviously fit in with the local laws, and so we work with lawyers who are expert in the jurisdiction. We translate the wording of the system, and then we roll it out. So there are now 50 firms in Canada that are using it, and we launched there just last year. There are over 100 in the UK. So it's something that it really carries a lot of appeal when people actually see it.
That's a fantastic story. I mean, it's a great story, and I mean, to see an Aussie firm sort of get out there amongst it all and sort of really go and build the business globally and things like that. And certainly, I think the hire of Paul, who's really well known in the industry, that does a great sort of hire.
That's right.
Bit of kudos there, Paul. You don't have to pay us for it. That's all right, mate.
I've been on mute for 20 minutes. I don't have to say anything.
I was digging into you next. That's it. So, Paul, how are you finding it all?
Yeah, absolutely loving it, David. Very much enjoying being a part of the team, and probably something that Max touched on is the culture of the Settify business. The beauty of being a global business is we're not contained by offices, office space, or anything like that. And when you've got a global mindset where someone in a country, say on the other side of the world, is interested in your system, then having people locally there, having the ability to work from anywhere is extremely attractive to them. And then they also appreciate that culture of having complete flexibility. Very much, we're very much driving what Max and I see as a modern workforce and in a modern business where you're not having to spend time commuting to an office. So we started, before we recorded this, talking about, David, you and I are in Sydney in pandemic, and I actually have transitioned into a global CEO role without physically meeting any of my colleagues. None of them are in Sydney. I'm the only one in Sydney. Everyone else is, based in other cities in Australia or around the world. And if you have that global mindset, you can attract people from, all over the globe, rather than the four corners of the globe, as they say, rather than having someone into one location in one country in one city, and then asking them if they would be okay with a commute to a CBD and things like that. So I very much enjoyed the transition to Settify.
I think it's to pick up on a point there. Really, Settify is in many ways a sort of COVID baby. It was me and Athol for a few years, working away with, and we had a couple of people that we worked with. But really, since the beginning of the pandemic, we've gone from a small team of about 4 to a team of pretty close to 20 now globally.
Wow.
It's been really huge growth during the pandemic, and because of the just natural constraints, And also, I suppose that like it was never really an option to just have people purely based in Melbourne, where Athol and I started. So we actually have people across, I think it's 8 different time zones around the world now. When you go from Melbourne, Sydney, Brisbane, Perth, we've got some coordinators in India, some people in Eastern Europe, our London team, our Canadian team, our Texan team. We've got a developer who's even living in Barbados. And
what a gig!
Beg your pardon?
What a gig! What a great gig, Barbados, eh?
Well, we can work from anywhere. So when borders open up, I think a number of us will possibly be digital nomads. And we also have a culture that really embraces flexibility, and we try to be a great place to work, particularly for people with families and wanting to have families, for women who are looking to re-enter the workforce after particularly work in law after having children. We're it's an amazing place to work, and we just have a really fun team, a really awesome culture, and people who just love turning up to work and getting stuck in together.
What I like, and again, repeating a point you earlier made, is the fact that you're actually bringing the value out in law. I mean, as a punter, as a consumer, and hopefully not a consumer of those services yet, but and not to be, definitely on the will side. But it's actually amazing that you're as you said, bringing the human aspect into it, bringing the value into it, and things like that, and letting people work on the things that are, and also as well, most engaging things. I mean, I think with the incredible demand for talent these days that's actually out there. I mean, people are choosing between the firms they want to work for. They're choosing, which firm is going to give me the best opportunity to grow my career and do the things I truly love. And if that's actually working with people and helping people solve complex problems and that sort of stuff, and that are actually around the legal side of things, but actually not having to do the mundane sort of paperwork, that's a great thing. So how does it work? I mean, basically, I'm a law. I mean, who are mainly your clients? What sort of size clients or practices you're mainly working with?
Paul, do you want to take this one?
Yeah, I'm happy to. I think the short answer is any legal practice. Any legal practices that require Settify services, we're more than happy to work with. The average practice, we've got practices with several hundred staff that have family law departments, dozens of people, all the way through to solos, 2-3 users with less than 10 staff, or maybe one specialist family lawyer and maybe a couple of accredited specialists in estate planning and estate administration. So we're not, we're not boxing ourselves in by any legal practice size. We will work with any legal practice that requires the need of Settify. Now, from our end, that's every legal practice.
Yep.
And obviously bringing me on board is to help scale the business up to get in front of practices that either may not fully be aware of our services or know we exist.
I think to draw some, that's great, Paul, and to draw some seams of the types of firms that tend to adopt Settify. I think that usually they're firms that get that the world is moving, the world is changing. Clients want different options, right? There are no firms that we use that require all of their clients to use Settify, but they're firms that show an actual care for what their clients want to do, and a care for the fact that some people, just might find it way easier to do this out of hours, might find it much less emotionally confronting to give their background information before the first meeting. Some clients just really value efficiency. They want to see lawyers that actually demonstrate, we are efficient, we do have good systems, and Settify is a beautiful front-end experience for that. So I'd say that the firms that don't use us are the firms that kind of treat their clients with a little bit of, an attitude of they'll just put up with it because they've got this family law matter, or they'll need the will or whatever, and so we'll do the job, and we're good enough lawyers that we don't need to provide the extra service. But for any firm that really gets people are online, we need to make ourselves as available as possible to people that visit the website. we need to make our services as accessible as possible for people who are, who want to do things efficiently. And so really our sort of value propositions, what we hear when we see, because we ask people, why did you get in touch with us? And there are 4 key things that law firms will say. One is we want to bring in more people from the website. Another one is we want to give clients a really good experience, really good client experience. The third is we want to actually move with the times and adopt technology. And the fourth is we care about efficiency. We recognize that we can churn files, but we're not in that business. We want to do things and do things effectively.
Yeah, and Max, to add to that, and David, you mentioned a little earlier about COVID and how and also Settify, how it's a COVID baby. And one thing I really noticed through the COVID period is obviously the way the world has changed permanently. I think pre-COVID, it was almost unheard of that people could work their own hours wherever they wanted to. For a lot of businesses and industries, I think there've been some progressive businesses out there that have offered it, but to offer it full-time and complete flexibility was quite unheard of. And lawyers also now need to change and adapt. I feel that now there is a level of expectation, even with the legal profession, that perhaps someone wants to engage you without either physically meeting you or before they physically meet you. And, it doesn't seem like that long ago where you would, when I was a junior in a practice and your person would come in, we used to hand them a clipboard, fill out this information, and they would sit in the foyer for 45 minutes giving that information. And I think now with technology as well, there's that level of expectation from consumers that they can jump on a website. People now just Google whatever they need. And the website is of a certain standard and provides a certain level of interaction. So I think, our value add for practices is, we're engaging more people at that base straight away, where they have a great first experience without even talking to a real human. But then when they do, all of that information is provided neatly for the customer, but also for the lawyer as well. And that's something that's changed. And Max touched on it a little earlier. The people that come to us are the ones that have acknowledged that. Lawyers are very resistant to change. It's something that I've noticed for my entire legal tech career. They are quite resistant to change. And COVID, not that I want to say that but there were positives out of it, is that it's forced some of them to change and rethink how they run their business. And Settify is key to that. And that's why Settify has now suddenly gone global very quickly, because around the world, legal practices who have run a certain way for probably decades, if not longer, have realised they've got to change with the times or they'll die out. Their business will just go elsewhere.
Yeah, it's interesting, actually. It really is interesting. I mean, I think to myself, I had an interesting discussion yesterday with a consultant to law firms, and that's sort of saying that one of the challenges was that it's either get more efficient, or selling a law firm. I mean, selling a law firm right now and getting the value you want from it, that sort of stuff is it's a difficult old proposition, particularly if it's a small sort of law firm and you don't have the systems in place. I mean, what's interesting to me is that this, potentially speaking, could make a law firm more valuable to an acquirer.
Absolutely.
Is that a fair comment?
Yeah, absolutely. And we see that. We do see some Settify firms being, sold to new purchasers and new owners. And absolutely, when people are looking at a proposition, like what is the IP? What is the value of a law firm? Yes, they're the people, absolutely, but people move. And really, Settify is part of the architecture of firms.
That's right.
And it becomes part of the system, part of the process, the upgrade to the website, a great process to sort of invite clients in. And then also, crucially, and something that I want to emphasize is Settify also has some really great integrations. We've just recently launched an integration with Leap, which is obviously a behemoth in the sort of small and medium law firm space. Where now really Settify is an absolute no-brainer for any firm that has Leap, because previously, or even I should say now, there's a lot of copy typing. Basically, to set up a new matter, you need to get your assistant who can frankly has better things that they could be doing, to be sitting there going, you know, typing in the name, typing in the address, typing in the children, typing in the, you know, the property, etc. And with Settify, we ask that of the client. Client puts it in once, boom, seamlessly. It goes through, it integrates into Leap, and it opens the Leap matter. It puts the Settify documents straight into Leap. It populates those, you know, party details, other side details, children's details, property details, you know, dates of birth, basically, you know, anything that you would usually sit there and copy type from a lawyer's, you know, scrappily handwritten documents into Leap. So Settify not only sort of provides that efficiency for the client, but it's also actually at the back end, something that's saving, you know, hundreds of hours across the year for the law firms that are integrating it. So if anyone who's watching this is a Settify and Leap user firm, we can reach out to us and we'll get that set up. And for anyone who has a family law team and or a wills team and uses Leap, Settify is absolutely a proposition they should be looking at.
Yeah, no, that sounds. And just another question I've got is in terms of actually like a, you know, I'm a 20-person law firm. Basically, how long is this going to take me to set up?
2 weeks. It's a really simple, straightforward setup process. It takes 3 steps really. We've got a service agreement. Once the service agreement's in, basically we skin the system. So we add the firm's logo, colors, fonts, graphics, etc. So it's a beautiful, seamless experience straight through the website. If firms want to amend the wording of the system, that's the service that we offer. We work with firms to do that. And then basically we just put the button up on the website. It's up and live. We train the team and we're off and away. And then really it's super simple. It just sits there. And it's really primarily the clients that are interacting with it. So it's not a big sort of burden in terms of training the staff. You just basically download the brief when it comes through.
And I guess typically speaking, what kind of people within the firm would you work with to get it implemented? Is it basically the practice or office manager? Is it partners? And who do you work with normally?
It really depends. And because it takes about an hour or like, you know, an hour or two, it's sort of like, you know, whoever's around. Practice managers, assistants, often the ones that get it set up, you know, sometimes the lawyers get involved.
Yeah. I mean, really, really interesting proposition. I like the way that sort of it plugs into, you know, systems such as Leap. And I think, and actually, yeah, as I say, I think what it does, it actually offers a whole new layer of service to you see with a number of the American law firms that are doing, I guess, particularly things like, you know, personal injury and things like that. There's some automated processes they've got along the way. And I haven't seen really many sort of, I've not seen much the way the sort of family law sort of space. So look, hats off, congratulations guys. I mean, based on your success, I mean, it's, that's great. And another great sort of Aussie success story on its way, which is, you know, brilliant.
Well, we're still very much in the middle of the journey, David. You know, I think that we have, I think, really established the concept. You know, we've proven it out. There are now tens of thousands of clients that have used it and really liked it. And we poll them. We ask clients for their feedback. One of our core values as a company is be great to work with. And, you know, not just good, but great. And we hold ourselves to that standard. And so we actually poll clients and we say, did you think Settify was great?
Fantastic.
To work with, and we get over 90% of people saying, yeah, it was great, you know, not just good. And I think that speaks volumes. Ultimately, this is a client service tool. And if you have, you know, lawyers and clients saying that this is great and it's legal tech, then you've got to be doing something right.
No, absolutely. And one sort of final question. Do you think that firms that wouldn't have a system like this on their website might be missing out on business? I mean, given that people are shopping, I mean, with referrals and for family law and sort of how that might sort of work, I mean, might there be a situation whereby people are missing out on business because they haven't got the ability to capture things on the web and do things automated?
We see that they do.
Absolutely, yeah.
Yeah, we can actually see that because we ask clients, we poll clients, how many firms did you look at before you engaged the Settify firm. And what we find is that the vast majority of clients look at more than one firm. And you know, it's quite natural, right? If you're in a, you know, if you've got a family law issue, you will ask a couple of people. You'll ask a couple of people, who do you think I should go to? You'll get a couple of different referrals rather than just getting one name and going straight to them. And so clients, the journey for clients is, it's quite a lot that ask around. It's somewhere around, you know, 50–60% that ask for referrals. There is a pretty sizable chunk that just do web search. That does exist. But either way, they come to the website. You know, that always happens. Like clients these days will always Google the firm. They come to the website, they have a look around. Now, obviously, it's hard on a website to really stand out because it's like, here's a photo of me, here's how I'm wonderful, here are my awards, here are my colors. Whereas with Settify, it's something that can actually grab people's attention. It's something that can take them off the market. So we absolutely see that that quite frequently clients will begin the journey, will check with a few different firms, and because Settify essentially kind of starts interacting with them, it means that they're about 10–15 minutes in, they've answered a bunch of questions, and they go, all right, well, you know, obviously I'll take the phone call from the lawyer. Obviously, you know, I'll go in for the first meeting. I don't need to start again. So it's sort of like getting that start right away. And that applies both for family law and for wills and for probate as well. Brilliant.
Brilliant. Look, gents, thank you very much for your time today. It's actually a really interesting solution, really, and I applaud your success. I look forward to sort of hearing more. We'll be putting an article up about Settify and some of the integrations very soon in Legal Practice Intelligence. But thank you again. Thanks, Max. Thanks, Paul.
No, we're a big fan of Legal Practice Intelligence, and so yeah, it's great to be featured. Thank you so much.
Brilliant.
Thank you very much.
Okay.